Hey everyone, I'm Tom and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about my top 10 reads of 2026 so far. But before we get to the top 10, just a couple quick stats. I have read 26 novels so far this year, one of those being a nonfiction, and then I have only read one graphic novel, which is definitely less than I would like to at this point. I will just mention, however, that that was the second compendium volume of Invincible, which was like 1,200 pages. So even though it's only one entry, it was a lot. Still less than I would like to at this point on the comic front, but that was definitely a chunky read. And then real quick, I will go from 25 to 11th for my rankings, just so if you're curious, you can see it. So just working our way up, we have Midnight Tides, and then I have three Conan the Barbarian short story collections. So they're all kind of down there together. Then we have Shanghai, Lazarus, Flybot, Onyx Storm, Trader's Knot, Red Rising, The Sword Saint, Children of Dune, The Secret of Secrets, Dune Messiah, and then in 11th place we have Silence. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and start getting into the top 10, which is the whole point of this video. And this is an author who is heavily represented in this list, and that is going to be Janny Wurts. And so first up, we have Grand Conspiracy. This is one of the books, a part of the Alliance of Light arc in it. And this one really started to lay the groundwork for a lot of things that end up happening in the entire arc, which I have now finished, which is, we'll get to that book actually a little bit later. But I'm going to probably repeat a bunch of stuff for Janny, so let me just say it real quick. You should read her series. The Wars of Light and Shadow is a true epic in every sense of the word. It does things like unlike any other series. It's definitely a unique series. It has everything you want from a fantasy series, but you know, it has her own twist and just everything on it. It truly is grand and epic in every sense of the word. Like I said, heavily represented here. So in 9th place, I do have Stormed Fortress, which this is the last book in the Alliance of Light arc, and definitely this is in contention for my favorite one. This is currently, I think, my second favorite one in the entire series. It kind of flops with another book that I'm going to mention here in a little bit. Once again, I'm not going to say too much about any of these books. They're so far into a series. Just know that if you haven't read the series, I think that you should. Next up in the number 8 spot, we have Golden Sun, book 2 of the Red Rising trilogy. I think this was a massive step up from the first book. Once again, it's a sequel. Not going to say too much specifically. I just found that the story was tighter. I liked the characters more in this one. Just so much about it was better than the first book. Don't get me wrong. I liked the first book, but if you think about that first book a little bit too much, it is definitely messy. There's a lot of things that are just kind of like convenient for the sake of being convenient, and just a lot of other things in it. Like I said, it was still a fun time. Golden Sun, huge step up. That is why it is in the spot that it is. Next up, we have easily the most disturbing book I've ever read, a book that I will never probably recommend to anybody ever because I just don't know how that I can, and that is Fox by Joyce Carol Oates. This follows the story of a bunch of different people, and unfortunately it's a story that's going to stay with me forever because of the things and how messed up this is. This is really a very disturbing book. And that's really all I can say about it. To some people, that's going to sound very intriguing, and to others, it won't. The reason I read it is because I was intrigued by hearing about how disturbing it was, and I kind of wanted to see and read a book that was like pushing the envelope in that way. And I think I said in my review, or when I talked about this book in a wrap up, that like my soul felt worse off for reading it, and I still think that holds true. Like even now, sitting here talking about it and thinking about like some of the things that happened in that book. It's just awful, man. It really is just one of those books that stays with you, and not for a good reason. So, but at the same time, it was so well done, and it tackles subjects and topics that are extremely taboo and horrific. But I feel like you need literature that does that kind of thing to expose it and show you how these things can happen, and just like highlight the atrocities that happen in society. And Fox definitely does that. Yeah, like I said, it's definitely one of those ones that I'll never forget, unfortunately. Sometimes I kind of wish that I would. Next up, we have the conclusion to the Empire of the Vampire trilogy. That is the Emperor. That is the Empire of Dawn. What I will say about this book, once again, trilogy, that last book in a trilogy, I don't want to be hyper specific about it, but what I will say is the ending of this book is so bold that I think for some people, and I know for some people, it completely ruins the trilogy. which is a crazy thing to say, that the last 15 pages of a book absolutely nukes a trilogy. But it does. It absolutely can if it bothers you. I'm obviously not going to say specifically what happens, but I can see that this story just like not like just ruining things for you. And I do think with that ending, it opens up to this book to some criticisms about what is being told to us as the story goes on. So obviously it worked better for me than a lot of other people that I know, which is, you're going to have that in reading. But yeah, next up, another entry from Janny Wurts. If you can't tell, I really enjoy this series. This author is amazing. I think you should read her stuff. She has standalones in fantasy, which is great. Peril's Gate, though, in the number, what is this? This is the 5th spot. So number 5, halfway through the top 10, Peril's Gate. This is probably my favorite book in the series. I think my favorite moment it's either in this book. There's one other moment that's kind of in contention for it, but I don't know, maybe my favorite moment in the entire series happens in this book, and so much happens in this book. And that is something that I can say about pretty much all of her books. Once again, super deep into a series, no specifics, just know that there are emotional moments, emotional impact. Read Janny Wurts if you haven't. That's the last time I think I will say that in this video. Next up, in the number 4 spot, we have Butcher's Crossing by John Williams. This was a Western that I read after I finally finished playing Red Dead Redemption 2 after it had been out for about 8 years. I had never played it, and I was really just kind of in the mood for a more Western kind of story, and Butcher's Crossing was from an author who I wanted to read. I've heard so much praise about John Williams, and so I thought I would go ahead and read Butcher's Crossing. And this is another book that definitely will frustrate you, I think, if you read it, for completely different reasons than Fox. But this was a book that did make me angry. But I thought it was such an interesting story and a tale and just like an experience. It felt like I was out on the frontier hunting buffalo. And that's really what I wanted. I was like, when you're in the mood for something so specific and something just like hits it perfectly, that's what happened with me in Butcher's Crossing. And I'm really glad that I read it. Obviously, it's in the number 4 spot here. I would definitely recommend it if you're into like, you want the vibe of the frontier and all of that. It made me more excited to read other John Williams stuff, because I've heard that this is maybe his weakest entry in his novels, which makes me really excited to read like Stoner and Augustus, I think, is the other one. So if this is what most people consider his weakest novel, I really expect to enjoy a lot of I expect to enjoy his other works immensely. Next up is The Return to Brandon Sanderson. To me, I had not read Isles of the Emberdark yet, and I finally got around to it this year. And if you saw my mid-year freakout tag, this was the biggest surprise of the year, obviously making it all the way up to the number 3 spot. I said in that video that when I finished Isles of the Emberdark, I was upset that there wasn't another Cosmere novel out that I could read immediately. And that still stands true. I really enjoyed going back to some of the stuff that happens in Six of the Dusk. That was one of my favorite short stories. And I think it actually ended up working out, going back to this world and learning some new Cosmere stuff. This is a very Cosmere heavy book. And so if you're somebody who doesn't like kind of the interconnectedness of the Cosmere, this one's probably not going to work for you as much as it did for me. I like that. It's not, to me, that's a feature, not a bug. And I think for some people it's a bug. Fortunately for me, as he leans into some of this interconnected stuff, these kind of stories work for me. I thought there were some really fun, interesting characters that were introduced who are new, kind of a new exposure to us, and we learned a lot about the Cosmere in this one, which was really nice. And it's probably my second of all of the Secret Project books, all the ones that look like this, so like Yumi, Tress, and The Sunlit Man. This one is probably just behind Yumi and the Nightmare Painter for me, but I really, really liked this one. I don't know, those two are very close for me. I think if I was really trying to rank them, it would be really close. So that means we are now at the penultimate spot. And this was a book that I had wanted to read for a really long time and finally got around to it, and that is Wistful Ascending by J.C.M. Byrne. I had such a fun, good time with this. I legitimately think if this series continues just at the same level as this first book, it will be in my top 10 favorite series of all time. That is how much I enjoyed this first book, and just kind of what the author is doing in the story. I think it's just going to be one that really clicks for me on a like a fundamental level. The audiobook was great. I did listen to this one, and yeah, it was fantastic. I will be talking about this book for quite a while. I will be talking about the series, especially as I get more into it. Obviously, I've only read the one book, but I don't know. Maybe I'm setting this book or the series up for failure because my expectations are so high. But I really think that it's going to deliver on a lot of the stuff that I like. And yeah, it's fun. It has the sci-fi, fantasy, space opera vibe in all of the best ways. Great characters. It has serious moments. It has fun stuff. It's just like a perfect blend of everything. JCM Byrne, he says that, you know, if you're a fan of Invincible, which obviously I am, I mentioned I read the compendium earlier this year, that this is going to be a series you like, and I absolutely agree with that assessment. I think it's kind of really spot on. So I definitely highly recommend this one as well. You know, if you take anything away from this video, just know that I think you should read Jenny Wirtz and you should read JCM Byrne. And then that leaves us with my favorite book of the year, which I did mention in the Mid-Year Freakout tag, but that is The Caretaker by Marcus Cleaver. And this is in the same universe as We Used to Live Here, which is one of my favorite books that I have ever read. This did not live up to We Used to Live Here, but obviously it is still my favorite book of the year. I think this one delivers in pretty much all of the ways I would have liked to. That's why it's number one. Why it didn't get 5 stars is, I don't know. There's just something that didn't click at the same level. I didn't love it. I just really, really liked it, which is kind of like the barrier for my 5 stars, is that I have to like unequivocally love it. And so I really, really like this book. I think there's just, you know, just some little magic sauce that wasn't there for me. But if you liked We Used to Live Here, you will absolutely like this. The same kind of feelings and emotions, and like, Marcus is the only author I think that has ever been able to like consistently scare me. Stephen King has some things that like kind of frighten me, but in a different way than these books do. And that in of itself is enough to make me really enjoy these books. And so Marcus is 2 for 2, and I can't wait to read more from him. So that is my top 10 of the year so far. I would love to know what your favorite reads have been. It has been a pretty solid reading year for me. I'm still hunting for my first 5-star, but I'm sure that will come at some point. And if not, that's okay. I've had years without a 5-star before, but that is going to be all for me. And remember, read what you want when you want.